This is Do It for a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
I thought I was still going to be working in the business. I didn't really see myself as delegating, really. I just thought, okay, now it's just going to be us and we're team and we're cranking and we're all talking, hanging out in the back working. Now somebody still has to answer the damn phones, make sure the bills are getting paid out.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Welcome back to another episode of Do It for a Living. I'm Todd Ersley with the My Shop Assist software. And today I've got Scott Molitor of Mofab. I met Scott back in 2012 at the Pikes Peak International Raceway when I was helping Kevin of Evolution Dynamics with his car. We just saw his little two-door Subaru car, and it had a really big radiator on it. That's what I specifically remember. And, Scott being in Colorado, he knew all about the race and how important it was for the cooling. And we're kind of naive in that. And so we asked him a whole bunch of questions about how it worked and stuff. And so, I've known Scott for several years now, and, he ended up using our project management software. So I've gotten to know his business side as well. And so he recently went through and expanded his business through something that we don't really see very often. And that's, merging with another company. And so wanted to talk with Scott and, hear his story, his personal story, and then, kind of wanted to dive into what led up to growing his business by doing kind of a merger with another one. So, Scott, how are you doing today?
Good, Todd. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent, man. Thanks again for taking some time and getting on the podcast with us. So kind of wanted to start out by hearing, your personal story. So if you can kind of tell everybody, where you grew up, if it was anywhere different than Colorado, how did you end up there, and kind of walk us up to the point of, kind of getting into working on cars, the Mofab business.
Sure. So I grew up in a small town in Minnesota called Ham Lake. Grew up with three sisters, mom and dad. Really blessed with a good family. So parents kind of instilled some good values in all of us kids, and I kind of nurtured my mechanical minded abilities ever since I was just, real small. I guess not really into the whole school thing. School was never really my main strength growing up as a kid. Being that my dad raised four kids and my mom was a teacher, we didn't make a lot of money, so we had to make a lot of stuff ourselves to kind of get through certain entertainment type purposes. So if it came to, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, dirt bikes, whatever we got, we would fix up. So that's kind of where my mechanical portion of my brain was working.
Mm-hmm.
He worked for Target. He was relocated out to Denver in '97. So that would have been my freshman, sophomore year in high school. Made some friends out here. Being that I still liked, mechanical stuff, I tried to get into as many of the shop classes and stuff that I could. Did the automotive program. I was more into small engine stuff in cars at the time, but still wanted to see.
Is that what, like Sea-Doos or like lawnmowers?
Like lawnmowers and go-karts and dirt bikes and stuff like that. I dabbled a little bit with motocross stuff, so wanted to, I've always tuned my own dirt bikes and stuff like that, so that was just kind of, something to kind of carry that passion along, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Did the automotive program. My automotive program in high school, as most kids know, back then at least, was kind of where the troublemakers usually went because
yeah, the wood shop and the auto class is like the kids that don't do the traditional school path.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of those kids are either troublemakers or their brains don't work like everybody else's, so they it's just a different way that you have to be taught. So for me, it was great. I actually tried to pay as close of attention to what my teacher was trying to teach us. A lot of the technology back then was so different. So it was, like even then I could see that it wasn't going to be super applicable moving forward. But at this point, I still wasn't sure if I wanted to be in the automotive industry. I just knew that I liked motors and mechanical things. I wanted to actually do mechanical engineering or some sort of engineering, but I was terrible at math. So,
That's
after
kind of a critical part of it.
oh yeah, you gotta know what you're doing and enjoy doing it, I guess, if you want to be successful with that. But I did my best. Skated through high school, B student.
Mhm.
Burned out by the whole thing, so I took a year off, and kept kind of playing with the dirt bike stuff, and then was actually doing construction at the time. Missed my parents, came to a headway with with the motocross stuff, getting hurt and not being able to work, and my parents kind of carrying me through some times when money was tight, and they said, hey, you either got to get a different place to live or get your ass in school. There's no free rides here, so or pay us rent if you want to stay home. So
Okay, yeah. Gave you an ultimatum to wake you up, huh?
yeah, exactly. So the easiest way out for me, and I thought I could, just get it done now and pay for it later, was just jump right into some school. So, being that we were kind of halfway through the school year, automotive school was the only school that started year round, at least here in Denver. So I went to applied at a school at the time that was called Denver Automotive and Diesel College. It's owned by Lincoln Tech now, is what they
Okay.
call it. But started that would have been probably 2002-ish, I think, is when I started the program. It was a 2-year program for an associate's degree. I got pretty burned out doing that because I was working full time, going to school full time.
Where were you working? Were you doing construction stuff?
Yeah, I was still doing construction. So, and it was about an hour away from home. So I would have to get up really early, go to the site, work all day, and then go to school in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, really taxes you. And then at that same time, I'm probably 20 years oldish right now, getting ready to move out of my parents' house. So you're experiencing all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of brings an interesting dynamic with kind of growing up and partying and all the stuff that comes along with that. So took a little bit longer to get through the program. I think I graduated, I think in 2003-ish with the associates from that school. Did really well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're learning something that you're interested in, it's really easy for you to excel. So I think it was like Magnum cum laude, I think is what the deal was with that. But and was trying to get a job, and that's kind of that's really when my automotive career kind of blossomed, was and then also figured out what the challenges were, because when you're looking for a job, and I see it now being on the other side of the desk, kids are coming in, they want a job. You can see that they're trying to, they're passionate, they're trying to be outgoing, but they don't have any experience. And I was that kid. I was reaching out to some of these shops like, hey, I'm extremely passionate. I want to come work for you guys. At this time now, I had a Galant VR4, so that was my first turbocharged
Okay, so
vehicle.
you're getting into the import stuff, huh?
Yeah, getting into the import stuff. My dad, growing up as a kid, my dad always had foreign cars. He always got a lot of slack from his brothers.
But they're practical, huh?
Yeah, he was the only one in the family. He grew up with all brothers that had import cars. All of his brothers had Chevys and Fords and blah blah blah. So he always talked to me about how well Hondas were made, and and Nissan, like foreign
Yeah.
stuff. They just take extra care, So so that's kind of where my background came with that, and being that one of my high school buddies growing up was really into the rallycross scene and stuff, and I was co-driving with him. That's when I started looking into the rally car stuff. So the Galant VR4 was kind of like this, this sleeper car. It was a homologated car that they used in rally for a few years before they built the Evolutions, and they brought them over to the States. They're limited production, and being that I'm a smaller guy, got picked on a little bit in high school and in middle school and stuff. I wanted something that didn't look like much, but could surprise the hell out of people. So that's kind of why it was that platform, and was starting to kind of do some things to it. But I really hadn't taken too much control of the modifications to it until pretty late in my college career because I didn't have the confidence yet. I was still pretty, I guess, timid about, jumping in and just pulling the motor right out. Even though, you don't think twice about it now. It's like back then when you're just getting started, like all these vacuum lines and cars of the 90s, they got so much emissions crap on them and stuff. It just, just seemed like a nightmare. But slowly kind of worked through it and got experienced and was doing some mods. I got an intake for it, and then I started planning out how I wanted to do an intercooler upgrade for it, and that was my first experience with getting burned by somebody on eBay. I bought this core. I got this core on eBay, and it was supposed to be a spherical core, and it ended up being like a re-tanked intercooler from like an Audi or something. That was just but I made it work because I spent a bunch of money on it at the time, and I tacked. I didn't even weld at the time yet, so I kind of tacked some stuff with my dad's arc welder, cut the pipes, some mandrel bends from some stuff that I ordered online, and brought it to a guy to have him MIG weld it. I mean, that's how basic it was back then.
Mm-hmm.
But searching for a job at this same time, hitting race shops because I wanted to be involved in some sort of racing. So I tried. I think the first place I tried was a place called Kennedy Race Cars, and he builds tube chassis drag cars and stuff like that. I guess real small shop, and it was close to the place that I was having do some stuff to my car at the time that I couldn't that I didn't feel comfortable with doing, and I bugged the hell out of this guy. Hey, can I sweep the floors? Well, his first question is, what can you do for me? And I don't have any experience. I just graduated. I'm about ready to graduate from school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to learn. I'll work for free. It doesn't really matter. I'm still kind of just about ready to move out of my parents' house. So I can stick around and just do whatever. I just want to be a part of this. And no, you're no good to me. So,
Okay.
so I tried probably 3 or 4 times with that guy. Then another place called 3R Automotive out here.
Yeah, I know that's a big race shop, huh?
Oh yeah. And bugged the hell out of those guys, man. And they would give me tours and show me how cool it was. But then when I'd ask them, can I sweep the floors? They'd tell me to go kick rocks.
Yeah.
So, I all these places, things just never really kind of panned out. Through this time frame, I met my current tuner and his brother at a gas station, and he's pumping gas into his Saab, and I was filling gas in my Galant, and we kind of started talking to each other, and he's talking about, oh yeah, we go street racing and stuff like that. And so I started going to these street racing meets and stuff out here in Denver. So, Nick and I, that's when Nick and I and Adam started becoming friends through the car scene, and we'd meet up every Sunday night, at around 9 o'clock, and we'd be out till, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then, back at it to work on Monday. But our relationship from the car seat started to grow, and as we got closer, they told me about how their dad had plans of opening a speed shop in Colorado that was going to have a dyno. And at the time, there was only a couple dynos in the state, period, let alone these guys were going to have the first all-wheel drive dyno. So that was huge, being that I had an all-wheel drive car, so it means we could tune it, and this is like right around like the 2002, 2003-ish time frame. So, tuning systems are just starting to kind of come out, and, this is things are really starting to kind of change at this time period right now. I asked them if I could come work for them. They said, well, they knew I was in school, but they needed to hire somebody that had ASE certification so they could open this business. Their dad felt like if they didn't have somebody working for them, nobody would take them seriously and touch their car. So I was nixed from that. But I stayed close, still friends with them, didn't change our friendship at all. But I did end up getting a job at a company called Stan's Alignment. So at Stan's, that was my first real hands-on, job where I got to actually, do the brakes.
Touch a car.
It wasn't just oil changes. I mean, I was doing oil changes at a dealership for a little while that went nowhere. All these promises of going into the back to become an apprentice never really took off. I didn't want to wait around, especially for the amount of money I was making. I felt like if I didn't get going somewhere else on my own, it wasn't going to happen. So worked for Stan's. That was a The gentleman that owned that business was a neighbor of my parents, who I was friends with his son, and we would do motocross stuff together. Tommy was his name, and Tommy was into cars. He was homeschooled, but he was really into the racing scene. So, he would kind of come and go at the shop while I was working full time, and I told him, hey man, there's this this racing scene that's starting to kind of blossom, and he came by to my parents' house and saw me doing a nitrous install on a kid's car I went to school with at the automotive college, and said, man, it'd be so cool to start a shop, and I was like, man, I'd love to do that. I don't have the money. He's like, well, maybe my dad will give me some money and we can just rent a bay out of his shop, and when I come back from racing and stuff, we can do this kind of stuff. Because he was he really took that by the horns too, and thought it was really neat. So I'm working at stands, doing replacing subframes and doing general repair stuff for these guys, and then every once in a while we'd get a cool job in where we would start installing like a turbo timer or an intake.
Okay,
They had an exhaust tubing bending machine, so I picked up MIG welding, and that's really when the welding portion of me really kind of took off. Like, I really liked working with metal. I liked how coming from construction, you could always cheat stuff with nails, bang on wood, stretch and move, but when you weld something, for the most part, that's it. And I liked how permanent that was. So they'd get jobs where guys would come off the street and want to replace a muffler and stuff, and they'd have to have some part bent and fixed, and so I'd get out of the machine and bend it out. It's all crush bent crap, but it was still cool. You got to think about geometry and how things worked, and so we really started kind of getting involved with that. The name of that shop that Tommy started was called Street Concepts. So he started developing relationships with vendors, getting accounts. I think at the time it wasn't even Motivici or Turn 14 wasn't around. I think it was like it was like Keystone, I think, was one of those big companies that was around back then. And then but anyway, so we're getting parts coming in. We're bolting them onto cars. We're starting to do turbo upgrades, but we couldn't tune anything. We still couldn't do any of the tuning part. We still had to use Mac Autosport. So Mac Autosport was the company that those buddies of mine that they started with their father back down south. They got the dyno going. The business was going good. I would hang out with them after I would leave work from stands and Street Concepts. Made for some interesting relationships with all three of our both companies, because I was still really close to Nick and Adam, and Tommy didn't really probably appreciate that too much, because I spent more time with them, but I took them more seriously, I guess, just because they had the dyno. It seemed like that was what you needed to have to kind of bring everything all together. But one thing that they didn't have was any sort of fabrication stuff really going on. So Tommy and I took a trip to SEMA, and that was like, talk about mind blowing.
Yeah, big jump.
Yeah, everybody's first trip to SEMA. Everybody remembers their first trip to SEMA. So, this is probably 04-ish, I think. We're out there. We went to the Miller booth, and Miller had all their welding equipment and stuff. And I thought, man, TIG welding, wow, that's so rad. It's so clean, and there's no sparks. You're not getting burned on your neck, and look how beautiful the welds are. We got to get this. I told Tommy, we got to buy one of these machines, because there's so many parts we can make with this thing that aren't available for these cars that we're working on. And we were doing some Subaru stuff, Mitsubishi stuff. I still had my Galant at the time. We started working on some Honda stuff, but we got a lot of stuff, and we actually did okay making parts for cars that you couldn't buy or cheaper. Like, for some reason we thought it'd be cheaper to make a lot of this stuff than just buy it off the shelf. And I think our overhead was so low, it allowed us to get away with making a lot of stuff that was you could just go buy, but some stuff you couldn't. So certain catch cans and reservoirs and stuff like that I thought were cool to make, because somebody wanted to dress up their engine bay, you couldn't buy at the time. So we'd make it and make some money off of that. And it was really neat. And so I started to really blossom in the fabrication department. So fast forward to now, it's probably like it's about 2005-ish. Sold the Galant. Bought an '04 STI that had a blown motor. Put in a fully built motor in that. I took a loan out, which is, it's crazy stupid how much money you can spend on this stuff. And when you're a kid, you make such stupid decisions. So living on my own, took out a big loan, but the car was blown. I didn't tell the bank it was blown. So I had a ton of money to spend on the car to put it all back together and build the motor, do an intercooler and turbo upgrades and, Turbo XS UTEC and all this old shit that, is just gone by the wayside now. And took it down to Mac to have it tuned, and those guys kind of saw what I had built, and Nick kept on telling his dad, hey, we need to hire this guy. He's not who he used to be. He's really talented guy. He's doing this fabrication stuff. I think we could add this this service to our business, and he was trying to tell his dad to see the value in the fabrication portion. So Bill approached me about a job, and I took the job with them in about '05, I think mid '05 or something. And that's when I left Street Concepts to go work for those guys, and truly I felt like I was working for a more serious company because we just had everything in one spot. We didn't have to subcontract anything anymore. We lost a lot of customers to sending work down to those guys, and I don't know how much poaching was going on, but it felt like we'd send somebody down there and then we'd never see them
again because they could do everything. Yeah,
because they could do it all, and it merely maybe even out of just convenience, not that we did anything wrong, but so family businesses, pretty much, most of my professional career, even when I was working in construction, it's always been around family businesses. So I've always got to see like interesting family dynamics. And working with those guys was interesting.
Because that was that's a father-son business, huh? So you're coming into that environment.
Yeah, and it's dads and sons, they can be toxic with each other at times. People button heads, and
Discovery had entire TV shows devoted to just that. Exactly. That interaction with
us, like watching that stuff on cable, because his dad would come out and blow up and the kids would yell at each other. I'm like, hey, man, if I yelled like that, I'd be fired in an instant, But then at the same time, he would say things to me and I'm like, whoa, hold on a sec, asshole, like you can't talk to me like that, I'm my son, But we worked through it and stuff, and we did our best to to just remain productive and get the damn work done. And it was, that age when, you're living on your own and you're trying to maybe buy your first house now and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of things are happening. And it really kind of starts stressing you out. Anybody that knows this business, when you're first getting into it, you're not making a bunch of money. I mean, even people that are in it are probably not making a bunch of money. You're just in it because you're truly passionate.
It's fun. Yeah.
What you're doing.
And so how long did you work there? Like, so were you like a fabricator primarily?
Yeah, I got hired on as the fabricator and lead technician when I got hired on.
So you were doing like multiple things. You were still installing parts and fabbing stuff.
Cars, and then when I got to do fab work, I got to get pulled off of wrenching and then do the fab jobs. So that was kind of like my dessert. I got to, whenever I got to do the chance to do that, then I would do it. So front mount kits, exhaust stuff, again the fluid reservoir thing. This is all happening up until about 2008 ish is where things started kind of happening. So in '08 we moved, the Mac company moved to a new location, a brand new building. They got kicked out of the old place because of a Harley dealership actually bought them out. So we found a new building a couple miles away. Bill, the owner of Mac, had us painting the walls and doing a bunch of shit that we shouldn't have been doing, but whatever, it was his business. So we're painting, getting the building ready to move the lifts in, got everything all set up, and but in the new spot we didn't have a dyno cell. The old spot there was kind of like a separate room. So in the new spot it was much noisier. The fumes always kind of traveled towards the corner where I used to work, and it was driving me crazy. I said, hey, we got to do something about this. Anybody that's working in a shop knows what I'm talking about. If you're working in an open facility and the dyno's just out there and there's just an overhang door, it drives you crazy. Like,
it's awful. Yeah.
Yeah. do what you can to help your employees get a quiet place to do their
Yeah.
they ain't gonna last long, and your employees are everything. And if you lose them, you're totally effed. So, so '08, I'm welding catch cans, kind of doing some stuff at home. I bought my own welder. I wasn't moonlighting, so to speak, but I was doing the jobs that Bill didn't want to take on at my garage at home, and it didn't help that I wasn't really happy at work because of the toxic work relationships around those guys, and just the environment was just kind of taxing me. So I started doing more stuff on the side, and my wife, who's my wife now, got tired of me bitching all the time when I get home. I'd be crying about this and crying about that. She's like, well, then do something. Stop bitching about it and make the leap. So timing kind of worked out in 2010. So in '08, I coined the Mofab name, registered the name, was doing stuff out of my garage. In 2010, that's when I actually made the leap to go. So my dad, who had got his retirement package from Target, decided to start a construction business. I told him that I was unhappy with work and that I would go work for him at the same time starting my my Mofab business. So he said that that's fine. I told him, as soon as I get busy enough, doing the Mofab thing, I'm going to have to leave, so you can't be upset when I'm taking calls during work. And it got to the point of where, a couple calls throughout the day. Then it was like, I'm on the phone all day, and trying to schedule work in. And at this same time, I got a storage unit, which just unfortunately so happened to be just about a stone throw away from Mac. It was in one of
That's not a very good idea.
Oh yeah, ethically probably wasn't the best decision, but financially,
It's cheap, easy place, huh?
Yeah, it was cheap. So
it sounds like you had like a pretty easy transition. It's kind of been brewing in your head for a while that you wanted to do your own thing, and then having it's kind of like a safety net, but you had another job that was okay, at least in the beginning. With you not working 8 hours a day.
Exactly. And I had roommates. I mean, even while this is going on, I think, at one point in time, everybody that's worked for Mac almost has lived with me. So I always had
okay.
roommates.
Yeah.
That's the only way I could afford it because I wasn't making any money. So I had roommates to pay the mortgage, and then that allowed me to do what I love. Allowed me to do the passion. So so my girlfriend at the time had moved in, and she got a job. So she was working. She was kind of helping me pay the mortgage. I was working for my dad, and that night I'd go to the warehouse and start, and work on customers' cars, and it was all on the ground stuff. And it was mostly fab work. I didn't want to do clutch jobs. I didn't want to do, general maintenance stuff. I didn't even want to do a whole lot of, bolt-on stuff. I wanted to fabricate. So I was fabricating intercooler kits, exhaust kits, rotated turbo kits for Subarus.
Pretty much just anything that came in, huh?
Anything that came in that was, that needed to be TIG welded. That was what I loved to do. So was doing that. My wife was doing the books. She helped create invoices and do some stuff because, she was still finishing up college. So she was doing her homework and helping out, answering phones and doing this. Started off with just a Google Voice number. That's how I found out about being able to have a separate number so I could just shut it off and not be bugged, after hours. So that was my main way of communicating with people, and it was word of mouth. I never did any advertising. I got a Facebook created, for Mofab, and then and then an Instagram account created, and was just kind of social media. I kind of took that by the horns. The Mac Autosport guys never really did too much of that. They did some forum stuff, and that always seemed to kind of backfire. So I stayed off the forums. And just hit the social media stuff hard. I'd show a picture, I'd talk about it, and then that was it. I wouldn't give too much information. I wouldn't answer too many questions. If they wanted to find out more, they knew where I was. So, I lasted about it was probably not even 6 months in the storage unit before I had to tell my dad, hey, this is taking off.
I've got to do this full time now.
Yeah, I got to do this full time. That's when I really, was like, okay, this is serious. Like my dad, if I needed to bum some money from him, they would have given me a loan to make ends meet. But now I'm leaving. That's it, 100% back on my own again. That warehouse area was really cool because it's like it was like an incubator for all these little businesses that were kind of popping up and just starting out, like a startup place. So I met these guys across the street that were dabbling with some kind of composite stuff and doing a little bit of powder coating. And he wanted to move too because the city was going to kind of crack down because we weren't really supposed to be doing business there full time. It was only supposed to be storage.
Yeah,
right?
just storage. Yeah.
So we decided that we would, be roommates, so to speak, and we moved to a standalone building that was in the city of Centennial, and moved the business license there. Had to do inspections, and I acquired a lift, got a lift in the new space. He decided he was going to have his business be powder coating, so he kind of stopped doing the composite stuff, was doing powder coating. I was doing the fabricating work. It worked out really cool because I would, build a set of pipes or make a can or make a tank or whatever, and then have them powder coat it. So the business, they really complemented each other. I kept him busy, he kept me busy. It was pretty neat. So some of those challenges were, one entry for two separate businesses. That got a little strange. What customers coming here for what? If they're gone, you're having to answer questions for them, vice versa. So that, for people that are doing that, think twice a little bit about it. If you can save a little bit longer before you have to do it, it's much less of a headache just to do your own thing and not have to split it, because it can get confusing. And then if somebody's pissing you off, it brings a dynamic to the atmosphere that you don't even want to deal with. So I think we were there in that location for about 3 years before I finally got my own space when it was just Mofab only.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I had one employee working for me, Eric. He's kind of who helped me get this off the ground. He was a Army vet. So man, what a solid guy. That guy, he worked for free for me for probably almost like 8 months before I started giving him any money, and then it was just cash under the table.
Okay, yeah, just when you could.
Yeah, when I could, and it worked out great. I mean, he was there on time. Like military guys, if you guys can hire military guys, hire them, because they're trained differently. So he really helped me when I needed it the most, getting this thing going. But so we moved to Denver, right? So that's when things really started to take off for us. So got in cheap, rent was cheap. This is probably like let's see. Yeah, this is probably like 2013, I think, maybe. And this was a 3,400 square foot place. Had a front office, hallway. I got a second lift, hired a second guy. I believe I was 1099ing these guys now at this point.
Okay, so making it a little more legit, huh?
Yeah, working my way up to the legitimacy. Had a showroom now, a couple bathrooms and stuff, waiting area, TV in the lobby. It was still cheap rent, but it was I kept the place clean inside. The outside, I wouldn't leave any customers outside in this area, but it was, the work got done. The efficiency I felt was pretty good. Employees kind of came and went, and I was back down to just myself for probably about a year, and was almost kind of questioning what I wanted to do at this point, because those guys kind of went their separate ways, and I needed to kind of reevaluate what I wanted to do. I was kind of thinking about, getting into parts production and stop and locking the front door and or just doing appointment only, to where I didn't have to, have the door open and people coming and going. Because when you're working by yourself, you get disrupted so easily. You get, time wasters, tire kickers calling you, and they want to sit and chat about, what their favorite color is, instead of, how much money they want to spend. And
yeah, you can't work on stuff. Yeah,
you're not getting paid to talk on the phone. So I hired a kid that was bugging me, Casey. He kept bugging me about, coming in and getting a job. And I told him, look, man, I can't pay you. I'm just kind of doing my own thing right now. But if you want to come learn, certainly I'll teach you. And he tried like 2 or 3 times to just get me to respond to him before I finally let him come in, and I gave him a shot. And I kind of like reflected on that when I was doing the same thing, and I thought, well, if he's willing to work for free, sure, come on in, and he ended up sticking around with me for a couple of years. It was great. I mean, turned out to be a great employee. And we bounced ideas off of each other, and we started growing the business again. I decided to kind of move away from the parts production idea again and just get back onto the speed shop thing. So throughout this whole time, we're building the cars, we're putting them together, but we're still sending them down to Mac to tune. Nick and I, we're still really close. So, but again,
well, that's good that you kept that relationship going at least, so that they could tune the cars.
He was my guy. I mean, he was still always my tuner. We started in the business together, so it was just kind of like, I followed him, with whatever he needed. So,
then how big did Mofab get, organically?
So we were at the time before the acquisition, it was just, my wife doing the books, me running the front and working in the back, and Casey working in the back. So, so 2 of us. I was still, it was still an LLC. I was just paying myself kind of under the table, and then Casey was 1099 at the time. And from the business standpoint, that's kind of where it was. So,
Well, on that, let's take a quick break, and then we'll be right back to hear more about making the transition to growing the business.
We all know owning a shop is difficult, so we created My Shop Assist to help you manage the various jobs. Whether you run a machine shop, a performance tuning shop, build off-road trucks, or even do powder coating, My Shop Assist can help you. It is completely online and will help you schedule the jobs, log time on each task, track parts orders, and take pictures of the work. You can even export your jobs from My Shop Assist into QuickBooks as invoices. So if you're interested to improve operations at your shop, check out myshopassist.com to start your 30-day free trial.
Okay, so we're back with Scott of Mofab. And so, before the break, we kind of touched on, getting to the acquisition position. So what, kind of led up to, or how did you find out, that a business was even going to, be ready to be sold, or, what kind of led up to the conversation getting started?
Yeah. So Nick and I remain real close. Again, he's the tuner for Mac Autosport. He approached me telling me, hey, he was bitching to me about the same stuff I was bitching to him or to my wife about when I worked for him. Oh, my dad this and this and that, and things aren't, and blah blah blah. And I think I'm done, and I said, well, I'm kind of in a spot where my lease is up. I'm gonna probably have to move. Maybe we could work together, And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, I could come tune for you, and I'll be your tuner, And I thought, okay, well, if you wanna do this, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So I immediately call up DynoJet because that's the dyno that he's used to working with. Got in touch with those guys. Got in touch with their capital people to figure out what it took to apply for the loan. And that's where things really kind of started to take off. So that's the first time I'd ever thought about investing a serious amount of money into the business. Everything at this point has been grown organically. No loans, low balances on the credit card, low limits. And as my company grew, that's when I really realized when you're cash flow limited, that can totally tank the whole thing. You really got to have, even if you're not using it, you don't have to use it, but you really need to have, 20, 30 grand on tap at any given time, even when I was only 2 guys, just to float you between some of these jobs, because anybody that's in the business knows these aren't cheap parts. You're putting on a $3,000 EMS system or a $10,000 turbo kit or a $5,000 set of wheels or something. It adds up fast. So so But the loan thing is what kind of scared me, because it's the first time I thought, okay, well, now someone's going to be peering into my books. I'm not just, floating with credit cards and stuff like that. I was actually trying to get some money for a tool that I was going to use for the business. So,
so you guys were gonna go off and do it on your own thing.
Yeah.
And so then what triggered, like not doing that?
Yeah. So what happened was, so we get approved for the loan for the dyno. We're looking for space to move the business. He hadn't talked to his father about the what he was planning on doing yet.
The betrayal and the abandonment, huh?
Right, yeah. And I think at this point their relationship between everybody here was so toxic, people were starting to kind of jump ship. And Bill, the owner, he was kind of, he was burning people up front. He never really had that good of a rapport with customers up in the front anyway. If anybody that's local to the region knows, if they've dealt with Bill, it's either they liked him or they hated him. There wasn't really like, oh, he's an okay guy, So when we're trying to kind of figure this out, we're looking at spaces, nothing's kind of really panning out. My current landlord said, "No way are you putting a dyno here." So we had to go elsewhere. And things were kind of starting to fall apart at the Mac place from the aspect of, no one was really interested in carrying on anymore. So Bill approached me and said, "Hey, I heard you might be looking for some equipment." And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm trying to move." He goes, "What, you're trying to expand?" I said, "Yeah, I'm trying to look for more space." He goes, "Wow, that's great. Good for you." I said, "Yeah, so if you want to sell me some stuff, just I'll buy it. I'll pay for it now, but you have to be able to keep it there until I find a new space." And he was like, "Well, why don't we just talk about you moving down here?" And I said, "I don't know." And he goes, "I'll even let you put your name above mine on the door." And I said, "If I come down there, it's going to be the only name on the door, Bill." And he goes, "Well, we should talk about that." And that's when things got serious with me thinking, okay, well, maybe there's some sort of acquisitional opportunity here with Mac. So we set up a lunch date, and this is 2016-ish, I think, when this is happening. So we sat down at lunch. I told him, I said, "Look, I appreciate everything that you've done for me. I can only thank you for where I'm at. It's helped me get to where I am. But if there's going to be any sort of acquisition, I don't want to buy your business. I'm only interested in your equipment, because I built my own name, I built my own clientele, and I got a great track record with customers, great customer service, no issues with any reviews or anything, and stuff like that. And they've been open for a long time, so of course not everybody has 100% on the reviews, especially if you've been open for a long time. So I'm a very prideful person, and that can really cloud your judgment when business opportunities arise. So.
But yeah, you just didn't want to run Mac Autosport. You wanted to make it Mofab.
I wanted, because otherwise it just seemed like I came back and started, working here again and just became the manager. I wanted there to be a clear, break in the fact that it's Mofab, Mac Autosport is no longer. So, so he said, well, and his business, professional advice was, hey, I see what you're saying, but don't make it, don't do a stupid decision and just blow all this stuff off, because there is a long paper trail. We got a lot of clients. If you just say that we're done, they might not, even give you a chance to work on it because they don't know who you are or whatever. So I said, I didn't care. I thought if I'm going to commit business suicide and do it, I'm doing it. So
whether it be cocky or confidence, just what didn't feel right.
It didn't feel right. I wanted to stick to my guns, and I told him, nope, it's only an asset only type thing. And so then everybody gets nervous about numbers, right? So it was at that point, what are we going to see? What am I going to have to tell him? And what is he going to have to tell me? And what kind of questions are we going to ask each other and stuff about business? And that's when I really kind of started to feel like I got a lot closer to him, because he started to kind of divulge, the P&L stuff. I mean, it took me forever to get that information out of him, but eventually he divulged the P&Ls for the business, and it was all stuff that I didn't really know anything about. I'm not a business.
Yeah, because you've just been taking cash from people and giving it to your employees.
she's an accountant, so that's why, financially we've succeeded, is because she's done all the the behind the scenes work, and I'm the one just talking to people and getting work done. So the teamwork from everybody is really what made this this opportunity, I guess, come to fruition. So we're sitting down, we're talking about stuff, and it almost took about a year for that whole process to take place. Figuring
Yeah,
out
that'd
what.
be the due diligence to make sure the deal is actually worth it.
Right. So I hired a CPA to kind of look at the books, so to speak, and come up with an offer letter. We had to have attorneys write up offer letter and counter offer and all this kind of stuff. So there was money spent just in the actual acquisition that I never saw as something that would need to be required. But when you're doing all this stuff, you can't just do it on a flipping handshake. It's gotta be stuff to protect your ass, because I didn't know if he had some debt that I was going to be acquiring, and I got scared, like, well, what if this customer's car comes back to haunt me because they burned somebody, and vice versa, so it was like this unsure thing. We're good friends, but who knows what's you never really know. You have to just do it by the book. So we hired a couple attorneys to draw up all the documents, get everything written up, finally settled on our price. And my angle on the attack with just only wanting the equipment was that hopefully he would just say, well, what good is my customer list and my website and all this other shit to me, to anybody else?
Yeah, to anybody else. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it ended up working out. He ended up just giving me the other stuff because it was no good to him, out of I guess like an incentive or something, kind of like a good luck gift or something maybe. So I think for Bill, it was a big sigh of relief. The guy had been doing it since 03. He was running the show and just got burned out. The boys, they had some financial vested into the business. I'm not really
keeping
sure.
It going. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what they had worked out with their dad as far as what their portions of it were for entitled to, what they were entitled to.
Yeah, I mean you just as a shop owner, you really don't have an exit strategy. It's just,
Exactly.
if you're the owner operator, most everything lies with you. So, if you leave, your business is not worth, as much as you think it is, versus like a manufacturing facility where you can just get somebody new to run it and it stays the same.
Yeah, and they don't own the building that they're in. So keep in mind, if they had owned this property, this whole thing would have never transpired, because there's no way I could have swung that type of purchase, and I would have just been out of that league altogether. So, like I said, the opportunity was kind of like a chance happening.
Yeah, he gets to, his employees get to stay working. The business does continue on, even though it's a different name.
Correct.
But at least it's good. It's going to stay. It doesn't just sell the assets and then close shop.
Yeah, and for him, he really wanted to make sure I gave everybody an opportunity to continue on with the new venture moving forward. But I told him, hey, no guarantees. Nick
Okay.
was the only guarantee that I had, just because of our discussions. But I re-interviewed Adam, his brother. I interviewed Cody, their other front desk tech guy, and then I had my guy Casey. So this is when it got real scary for me, because I was taking out a huge loan for a purchase. So now this is like the first time I feel like, okay, well, if this tanks, I could lose my house.
You got a lot of debt. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a lot of this is where things really got serious for me. And then hiring all these people. So
yes, because you like more than doubled your employee numbers by this.
Exactly. So now we're talking health benefits and slip and fall insurance and and managing and all this kind of stuff. It's all hit me, at once. And so I re-interviewed everybody, and we moved the shop down here. I pretty much moved everything from the old shop to the new shop, which is about, I was probably like 15, 18 miles south of Denver now.
Okay.
So we're on a city called Parker.
Well, at least you didn't have to move the dyno, huh?
Right. Yeah. So that in itself played a role in this whole thing, because
I mean, that's thousands of dollars.
And I placed a value on that because of the number that Bill gave me. I didn't want to accept, but I thought, hey, if I had to do this for real and reset all this shit up, there's no way I had enough cash in my bank account to swing, months of not getting anything done until we got everything operational. So, I placed a value on that, several thousands of dollars just in that alone, and made everything happen. But so when we moved down here, I re-interviewed everybody. I told them, look, guys, here's the deal. We got no money in the bank account. I've literally drained everything that I had in my savings to make this acquisition happen. So we have to kick ass and take names, for at least the remaining part of the year. So this is now this is June of 2017. That I had this pep talk, because it was June 1st. We're in the new spot. We're painting. We're kind of changing some things to kind of give the guys that have been here a change, so they can see a visual change. And then my guy Casey, he's already excited because it's just a new spot in general. So I'm trying to get everybody amped. I'm trying to learn how to be a freaking manager, and that in itself is a whole nother discussion. But so I told them, we got to kick ass because we have no money, and I can't even pay you until we get some money in the account. So so that really motivated those guys. They were excited. It's a new venture, so to speak. So
well, did you have to close all the jobs that were incoming, like are already there, or did you take over receiving payment for those?
Yeah, so that was part of our agreement. So they were to close all existing long-term projects out before I got there. We had one left that I told them I would allow them to use one lift for. We have 4 lifts in the shop now, and an alignment rack, and I told them that they could use one lift to finish up the project. And they had, I think I gave them 2 months to get it done, which is quite a bit of time to be taking up one of my lifts. But it was part of the whole agreement. And they were to work on it nights and weekends, not during shop hours. So shit, even Bill was in here working on the weekends with his boys, getting it wrapped up so they could get the car out of here to the customer.
What other like weird transition stuff did you have to do?
They had guys that had put deposits down and kind of screwed them over months ago. They'd put, a $325 deposit down, and then they wouldn't show up for their damn tune because of a mechanical issue. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, when I'm acquiring the business, these guys come out of the woodwork and they want me to finish their tunes. And I'm like, look, man, I didn't take your money. That was a business that doesn't exist anymore. I didn't get their bank accounts.
Oh, jeez.
I didn't even get their books. So we got flamed on the internet for stealing people's money and screwing people over. And I'm like, man, that's not even my company that did that. And that was, being a prideful person, that was such a draining thing on me mentally, because I'm thinking, all these guys are burning me, and I never even did business with them.
Yeah.
So that was the shitty part of
Did you give like a grace period if they did?
I gave 30 days. I didn't make a big announcement, but I did, for people that called and said, hey, I did this. I said, okay, you got a month.
30 days to get down here. Yeah.
And and some of these assholes would show up and their cars weren't ready to tune
anyway.
And and I'm like, you're the guys that are flaming me and you're still not ready, and it's been 6 months.
Yeah.
So we worked through it. It took about, I think the last unhappy customer that we had to deal with that whole scenario was about 2 months after, or 3 months after the whole purchase acquisition happened. And at this point now it's all clear sailing from that.
So if they ever come back, is it going to be a water under the bridge, or are you going to tell them to go, beat it?
Pound sand.
Yeah. You say, hey, I'll work on your car if you go back and change your shitty review you left for me 6 months ago for no reason.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's legal to do, but you can at least try it.
There's a few guys that that probably won't regardless, but ultimately, it's for me, it's the business. So I might think you're a piece of shit, but if you want to give me money, I'll take your
money talks. Yeah,
be the service, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll.
Yeah,
it's about providing, regardless of the relationship. Personally, I still want to provide the same type of service and quality of service to everybody, so that doesn't change.
So did you keep like the phone number or the emails? Like are people contacting the old stuff?
Yeah. So email, website, based off of the review thing and the pride thing, I shut down the website fairly quickly.
Okay.
And along with the
like the Facebook page or something. Okay.
Yep. And then I had the announcement about the politically correct merger on the Mofab page for probably 2 or 3 months, and then pulled that down. And then the phone number I kept, and then the email I shut down with the website. So everything's now funneled to the Mofab website.
Do you still get people calling like, "Hey, I was looking for a Mac. Is this not it?" And you're like, "Oh, we're different now."
There's still a few old.
Like it trickles in.
Yeah, there's some of the people that are not on the internet, really, that just haven't been here in months. They'll walk in and be like, "Whoa, what's this? What's going on? Did you guys change the name?" And then we kind of tell them the story. And once you do it, 50,000 damn times, it's just like yeah, it's a different place.
Yeah, we're different now. Yeah, what do you want?
But everybody's here. Everybody's here. So if you want, you can trust us still. And for the guys that that remember me when I worked for them, they're like, "Whoa, you're running this place now?" I'm like, "Well, it's a different company, but yeah, theoretically, yeah, it's full circle, and it really, some of them, it just blows their minds. They can't, and other guys like, "Wow, that's, congratulations, that's so awesome, it's, you really, you really made the, the dream come true."
Dream come true, yeah, man.
Inspirational for people, you can really, if you work for a place long enough, you might actually own it one day, and you really did, and so.
That probably feels pretty good.
Yeah, it does feel really good. Like you get, as a business owner, you start to, it starts to be kind of, it's work, right? Like it's your passion, but it's still work. So you kind of lose touch with some inspirational things every once in a while, and every once in a while you got to get grounded and just be like, appreciate it, and it's okay to kind of to have those feelings and just kind of soak it up, be like, hell yeah, I fucking made it.
Yeah. So I want to kind of ask you some questions about, your changing role when this all happened. So like, because I personally, I consider like a small business to be like a part, like either you doing part-time up until like maybe like 3 or 4 people, that's, I'd still consider that like in the automotive world, a pretty small business. And then medium is like, 5 to like 10-ish, and then anything over 10, that's like you're a pretty big operation at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
And so did you anticipate how your roles were going to change? Like, did you see it coming, or were you just kind of blindsided by, changing from an owner operator to mainly like a manager of all the people?
Yeah. So that's something that I still struggle with now. Anybody that's ever worked for me can tell you that I'm not a good manager. It doesn't matter if it's only been one guy at the time or, now currently, 4. It's definitely something that I struggle with. So I knew that somebody was gonna have to manage these people. And at first I thought I was still gonna be working, in the business.
Oh yeah, like billing hours, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't really see myself as delegating, really. I just thought, okay, now it's just gonna be us, and we're team, and we're cranking, and we're all talking, hanging out in the back working. Now somebody still has to answer the damn phones. Somebody has to make sure the bills are getting paid out. You got to
make all the decisions and do the sales,
customers and all stuff. So, so I had, Cody, who was kind of their front desk guy, was he wanted to transition to the back and actually become a tech. The guy had more tools than me even. So I started getting him into the back more full time, and that kind of kept me into the front. And so, when you're trying to manage these people, you literally you hear like cash register noises in your mind as you're looking at your text and seeing what they're doing. It's like, okay, this guy's talking, this guy's wrenching, this guy's making a coffee, this guy's taking a shit, and you're like, the money's coming, the money's going, and you're trying to take all this stuff in and stay calm about it, and just and that's like such a struggle. So yeah, I mean, trying to do that and be a manager, was kind of how I first started. And then I was like, all right, I talked to my wife. I was like, I gotta hire somebody to answer phones and do stuff, because I feel like my talents lie more in producing than they do in delegating and managing, right?
Yeah, it's very good to realize that as well.
Yeah. So and plus I enjoy working. I wanted to, if you don't keep welding, if you don't keep wrenching, you do lose it. I mean, you're not as fast, you're not as sharp, you make, stupid mistakes, you forget things. So and let's face it, we're not getting any younger. So you need to stay up on it if you want to continue to do it. So I actually hired one of my customers that was looking for a job that had just got let go from his place as a service writer. So I hired him to kind of manage the front. And man, we're cranking, and I still see instances where it's not enough. And I've talked to you guys about this, about how you pretty much kind of need one guy for every two techs to kind of schedule and
to schedule them and get parts and order stuff and answer phone calls. You really need that, like, one front guy to every 2 or 3 techs is kind of the sweet spot.
And and when it hits you is when you're in the back, you're working in the business, not on it, and then you go up into the front, and your front guy has got, like, phones are ringing, he's got 2 people waiting in line, he's trying to ring out somebody that's trying to buy a case of oil, but he's also trying to talk to a guy about a motor build, and you're like, holy shit. And then you're like, hey guys, and they're like, oh, hey, I'm here to talk to you about this and that. You start talking to them, and then they're like, oh, well, I'd really like to meet the owner. And they're like, well, I am the owner. You're all dirty and grubby, and you're like, oh, they get all surprised, and but the busier you get, it's like you said, for the amount of overhead it takes for that person to help keep things running smoothly pays for itself by keeping the things running smoothly. So
yeah, because you're trying, the whole goal that we push is, like, keep your techs working as much as possible.
Yes.
If the owner is a tech, you got to keep him billing hours. And so that front desk guy that takes up 8 hours a day, the techs in the back have to produce, 3 or 4 hours extra work to cover his, expenses. So, you gotta weigh that, and it's a hard transition to make. When you need, do you hire 2 techs first, or do you hire one guy first? Like, it's tough.
It is tough. I mean, it's hard as a business owner to see that, like, the value in that until you've done it. Then once you do it, you're like, oh my God, why didn't I do this sooner? All this time wasted, talking to somebody, doing this, and where I'm at kind of right now is I'm trying to get back into the office so I can help Matt out in the front, because I find myself getting sucked into the back. He comes into the back and he's asking me questions, and just in the last week we've actually downloaded this 2-way radio thing for our phone. So we can, like, next tell each other and say, hey, so and so needs this, and I can radio back, okay, do this, do that, instead of me walking back and forth. And that alone has saved a ton of time.
It reminds me of those, like, walkie-talkie phones of, like, a decade ago for construction guys.
Yeah, Nextel. That's exactly
that was it.
Yeah, the construction guys. So yeah, I mean, in fact, I think it makes the same beep. But so we're finding ways to kind of to make these shortcuts until we can bring on our another tech. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. Is I got another tech that I want to bring on, and I've talked to you guys about this with the numbers thing, and I'm guilty. A lot of business owners are, but I'm guilty lately of pretty much since the transition. I haven't really been looking at the numbers to see where we're at. I've been going by my gut.
Just your gut, yeah. That's dangerous.
That can be dangerous, but I talk to my wife because she runs the books, and I talk to my CPA and I get their advice and stuff, because I just say, I want to do this. What do you think? Well, yeah, you can do it, or yeah, you should probably wait. And it's kind of like, well, if you can do this, if you can bill them out for the X amount of, hours a week, then he'll pay for himself. If you can bill him out at this much a week, then anything he's making over that, he's making money. And based off of what we have now, I know I can. So that way I can get back up into the front. I can help Matt, with, talking to customers and being more, of a face of the company. Because right now we don't really have one. Matt's kind of the face of the company, and that's fine. I don't care. I just want to be able to keep everybody happy, keep the guys in the back busy, and keep the workflow going, without it getting piled up. So
yeah, so that'll be your homework for this next month, is to start run some employee service reports and see how efficient everybody is.
Yeah,
especially on yourself.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I'm so scatterbrained, a lot of times, because I'm working a little bit on here, and then I'll clock out of MSA and I'll go talk to a person, and then while I'm up there talking to a person, somebody walks in, and then I'll talk to them, and then I got to go to the bathroom, and then I go into the back, I punch back in, I start a little bit, and then I got to go check on my guy because he's got a question about something, and that's kind of like the weird spot that I'm in, is because we're getting so busy now that I'm not able to just focus. I got to punch in, punch out, punch in, punch out.
Yeah, and I read something, or maybe I heard it on NPR, about productivity, and it was like, when you're doing a skilled labor, not just installing parts, but like tuning or fabricating or something like that, if you have to take a break, it takes something like 15 minutes to get back into the point. If you're welding, you have to stop. You have to take all your stuff off. You have to turn the machine off and do all this stuff. And then you come back and you got to put it all back on. Yeah. and where was I? And you got to heat the part up or something like that. So that's like we pushed that so hard to figure out, what causes people to jump around, because it's a nature of the beast of jumping around and helping people.
Yeah, it's like business ADD, right?
Yeah. So if you can sit down and focus on something for 3 hours at a time, you're going to be twice as productive as doing 3 hours of work, starting and stopping 4 times.
Right.
So that's a tough one, and it's really hard for people to step back and figure out where, what is causing that. So we like that, when people realize they're jumping around, it's like, well, let's start addressing the issues that are, leading up to that. And for you, it's, answering questions from the front desk guy. Well, then that means that, you either need to have quiet time where you don't answer questions, which is probably impossible, or you just need to be available, all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Hence the walkie-talkie thing. I mean, that's really helped out a ton. Because then Matt's not walking into the back to ask me a question. He's just sitting up there still, and while the customer's waiting, he can just boop, bop, beep, and then I don't have
that's very cool.
So it actually works out really good. But to that point of distraction, man, Nick, our tuner, it's funny you said that, because he's totally that guy. He's like, just give me, 45 more minutes and I'll be done with it, because I'm pretty strict on saying it's noon, we all need to leave, we come back at the same time. And if he's kind of at the tail end of something, he'll be like, no, man, I'm almost done, let me stick around. But then it throws off the schedule for the next one that we have in line. So I'm trying to, that's kind of always kind of like a constant battle with trying to not disrupt him, because I get it, I understand, but there's still like protocol with me trying to have, core hours in the business, because we're limited to how late we can stay here because of noise restrictions.
Okay. So you have to leave at some point. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I think Parker limits us to 7:30 at night. So, and Nick, he's got kids, so he can kind of, he can come back after work, but it doesn't do us any good, because
he can't tune. Yeah,
he can't tune. And if he's doing door down passes, I don't want him doing that. It's so unhealthy. So, we're actually trying to maybe think of a way to build a device so we can quiet, muffle cars, and still ventilate stuff without changing exhaust back pressure to allow us to tune, into the night hours if his scheduling conflicts with daytime stuff. So
yeah, man. Well, that'll be interesting. It sounds like you're getting a good grasp of it all, but it's a lot of stuff to undertake.
It is, yeah. Managing is tough.
So let's kind of move to the future. Where do you see Mofab in 5 years? Are you gonna upgrade? You looking to upgrade any equipment, or move or purchase your own space, or build a dyno cell?
Yeah, so we do have a cell, so to speak.
Yeah, it's in a different room.
It's in a different room. It does have some noise suppression, like the special wood fiber noise suppression board, and then on the other side of that is actual it's almost like the lead filled blankets you get.
Yeah, it's a big blanket, right?
Yeah, I mean they're heavy. We had a piece for the door that was so heavy it was actually making the hinges on the door fall apart. So we just took it off the door. But yeah, so future plans, we want to actually upgrade to the new DynoJet 224X.
Yeah, the 424, the all-wheel drive one, yeah.
Yeah, yep, with the linked rollers. So we want to do that, and then add the eddy current modules to that, just for more growth for some of these newer cars that not having linked rollers screws up some of their differentials and how the trannies talk to the ECUs and stuff. So that's in the works. We want to own our own space. I'd like to have the opportunity to either sell this to the guys or have something that I can hand down to kids someday if I have kids. But I want to own the ground that we're on, because then we have a whole package. And if we want to expand, we can use that as leverage for more, capital if we want to expand into other avenues and kind of dabble with some of the parts manufacturing and stuff like that if we decide we want to head that direction. But that is kind of the 5-year plan, is to own the ground that we're on, whether it be in our own location where we're at now or in building a space. If we can't stay here, I want to build. That's that's just about it for that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll ask one kind of fun question here at the end. What's your daily driver vehicle, like not a race car?
So I got currently it's just a 2001 RS 2-door that I put one of my rotated kits on, the stock motor.
Oh, nice. So you have a fun car, but it's not super crazy.
Yeah, yep, makes about 300 horse. It's stock STI exhaust, so it's quiet, but I have a ported shroud on a 3076, so I still get the turbo sounds that I
yeah.
for.
That's awesome, man. Well, to close out here, if people are more interested in finding out information about Mofab and having you guys do some work, where can they go online and to get more information?
Yeah, so Facebook, we monitor Facebook daily, hourly, I guess. So we try to be real responsive on there. So that's just Mofab LLC on Facebook. Instagram, favorite app that I'm using to communicate with people on my own time. That's just Mofab LLC on Instagram. And then website's www.mo-fab.com.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time and telling us the story. I think it's a really cool, different strategy to growing the business of merging and acquiring or mixing together two existing businesses to grow quickly.
Yeah.
And you have sounds like you're doing a good job of it, and I wish you a lot of luck in the next few years.
I appreciate that, Todd.
Awesome, man. Well, have a good one.
You too, buddy.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone. Open up the podcast app. Tap the subscribe button. When you subscribe, you help us gain momentum and attract more high-level guests. Thanks for listening, and good luck.